Late that night on Christmas Eve, as the house was finally silent and still, I was at the kitchen table wrapping the last few small gifts for the teachers. That's when Dad's text message arrived. A gentle rustling of paper was the only sound in the room, the faint sound of the 3 fingers I pressed down on it, until the mobile phone vibrated softly on the surface of the table. The screen lit up brightly. He wrote, "Unfortunately, we have to cancel the Christmas gifts for your children. This is due to budget constraints. No emojis to soften the harshness. No long-winded explanation. No, we are sorry. Just the facts." I stared at the words, then at the little reindeer greed gift bags in front of me, which suddenly seemed ridiculous. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed? Okay, I wasn't demanding an account. In a way to comfort myself, I assured myself it was fine, but my stomach tightened. We would still have our own morning, just the 3 of us. We would still have hot chocolate with extra cream. My kids were used to modesty. They knew the difference between wanting and needing. But on the following day, as we entered my parents' house, the feeling of injustice washed over me, a physical wave of unfairness. The tree in the living room was buried under an avalanche of boxes. There were towering stacks, belonging to Emma and Ben, my brother Marcus's children, each clearly marked with their names, boldly written in thick, black felt tip pen. For my 2, Lena, 11, and Ben, 8, only the old Christmas stockings hung by the fireplace. They hung down, drooping and heartbreakingly empty, like a somber, unwelcome afterthought. Mama, clutching her shiny new digital camera, darted about, its lens rigidly fixed on the scene, mirroring a machine's unwavering gaze. "Go over to the fireplace," she shouted, her voice echoing slightly off the walls. She didn't specify who she was addressing. It was quite clear. Emma and Ben, already seated at the center of the room, radiated a palpable excitement, beaming brightly with anticipation. In stark contrast, Lena huddled nervously at the farthest edge of the carpet, seemingly shrinking into the background as much as possible. Ben stood there, his hands thrust deeply into the pockets of his oversized hoodie, a palpable awkwardness radiating from his stance as he waited for instructions that never arrived. He seemed completely out of place in the room, a space designed to offer comfort and security. Marcus, however, handled the gift-giving with the over-the-top energy of a host on a low-budget entertainment program, his delivery loud and overly theatrical. "Emma," he boomed. "Open the big one." "Ben, wait for me, pal," he added, his laugh echoing around the room. The room responded with a chorus of dutiful, almost forced laughter. The first present was a tablet, sleek and brand new. Next came a smartwatch, its display blinking insistently as it was unwrapped. Finally, a pair of expensive brand-name sneakers was revealed, the very kind I had seen advertised on a billboard in the downtown area, the kind that could easily cost a month's worth of rent. Colorful wrapping paper swirled through the air, adding to the already chaotic atmosphere, torn apart by the greed of Santa Claus at Grandpa's, Marcus announced proudly. Ben caught my small glance and forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. With relentless repetition, Lena gazed at the empty socks, hoping that sheer willpower might have caused something to appear within them since her last inspection. Her cheeks were pink with suppressed shame. She offered me a minuscule, courageous shrug that, unfortunately, broke my heart. I felt my hand tremble under the table. I sat down firmly on my fingers, pressing them against the wood of the chair so that I wouldn't do anything stupid like jump up and knock over one of those towers of boxes. "Budgetprobleme," Dad said to me suddenly, not exactly quietly, as if to make sure everyone in the room could hear and understand. We had to focus on the little ones this year. Lena blinked rapidly to hold back tears. She's not little anymore, but she's still a kid. Ben pulled at a leftover ribbon from the floor and made a makeshift bracelet out of it. Mom's camera panned around the room, pointing at the shiny paper, at the tablet, everywhere but him. I waited for someone, anyone, to notice the madness, for someone to say, "Wait, where are the presents for Lena and Ben?" Yet no one responded. The silence was overwhelming, far more pronounced than Marcus's laugh. At last, Julia, my sister-in-law, reached into a bowl and gave each of my children a candy cane. She then mentioned it rather casually, saying, We'll come up with something small for next week, all right? As if my children had to record their joy in the calendar. I swallowed slowly 1, 2, 3 times to force the lump in my throat down. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Not of the tablets or the expensive shoes, but of Ben's bowed head and the empty, dusty space beneath his sock. My throat felt tight, constricted like the ribbon I had just symbolically tied around nothingness. But I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I even smiled fixedly when someone made a bad joke about how Santa probably needed a raise. But deep down, I wasn't counting presents anymore. I was counting systems. I'm Kira. I'm 37 years old. I live in Munich in a narrow terraced house that still smells a little pungently of paint because I renovated the children's room myself last month during the night shifts. I'm a sound engineer. It's not a glamorous job, no matter what people think. It means a lot. Dealing with heavy lifting, the never-ending task of rolling up dirty cables, labeling XLR connectors with clammy fingers, and the challenge of taming screeching feedback emanating from the monitors in crowded bars and small theaters. I work nights when others are sleeping, on weekends when others are partying, and on holidays. I also freelance for a few venues deep in the Alps when I can get a gig, no matter how far the drive is. It pays the bills, but only if I'm careful. I'm divorced. The kids are with me most of the time. I've always been the good one with money in my family. Translation. Budgeting wasn't easy. I learned the hard way, enduring sleepless nights, but now I know precisely what's in my checking account, to the very penny. My parents, father, a retired lineman, and mother, a part-time hairdresser, are quite the opposite of us. They're generous when they have an audience, and impulsive when they want something. My brother Marcus makes big plans, dreams out loud, and assumes someone else will take care of it. Picks up the tab when reality hits. Usually that someone was me. It just started, slowly. Following my divorce, I took the time to reorganize my personal finances, and I then politely requested that my parents discontinue using my credit card for their emergency expenses. Consequently, I set up direct debit for their electricity bill, using my account, because they apparently weren't very good with online passwords. Kira, it was only euro 180 a month. Then came the water, euros, euro 60 euros. Then the garbage, euros. Small amounts, they said. Next, they canceled their agreement with Telecom and jumped onto my family plan for only a few short months. That turned into 2 years. Each month, euro 220 euros was deducted from my salary. This covered the cost of 4 mobile phone lines, mine and theirs. Mom would often text me on Fridays, "I don't have enough money for food." It started at 100, then 200. For most of this year, I automatically transferred 3 euros into her account every week, so I didn't have to choose between ignoring her need or overdrawing my own account. I have a weekly standing order set up in my app, simply called Ma'am Food. It's the most depressing name on my entire phone. When Marcus's part-time job in heating construction blew up, his word for failure, I left him euro 7,500 that I had painstakingly saved up through a series of exhausting company events in July. He promised solemnly that he would pay it back by Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving came with a purchased cake and a shrug of, you know how customers are. Faced with the threat of having his car repossessed due to a forgotten payment deferral related to the COVID-19 pandemic, I stepped in to cover the euro cost, preventing this from happening. When my parents' old oven suddenly stopped working, I swiftly found a replacement on eBay Kleinanzeigen. A cash purchase of euro 400 secured the appliance, and with the help of a friend, we hoisted it up the stairs while my father observed. Our trip to Disneyland 2 summers ago was a family affair, and I took on the responsibility of organizing everything. I booked all the flights and the vacation rental, paying a euro 3,800 deposit, with the expectation, of course, that each family member would subsequently reimburse me in agreed-upon installments. This, however, never materialized. I found it easier to pay for all the park tickets at the gates themselves, rather than attempt to argue with the ticket vendors. And in what seemed like a rather belated contribution, my father presented me with euro 200 in cash. a noticeably crumpled wad of bills, at the end of the trip, accompanied by the confident declaration, "We'll settle this later." They never did. I tried to convince myself that it was a gift, a blessing from family. That's what family is, right? But the insults started appearing, like potholes, and I just pretended not to notice them, driving over them as if the jarring impact didn't matter. On Mom's birthday last year, a shelf held framed pictures of all the grandchildren. There was a dozen or so of Marcus's kids, soccer games, dance performances, the first lost tooth, all captured. My children? Only 2 photos. Both dated from 5 years prior, faded and almost unrecognizable. When I sent a picture of Lena's recent certificate, a picture I was so proud to share, Mama immediately replied in the group chat, making a point of mentioning all the grandchildren, and then swiftly followed up with photos of Emma's performance, almost as if to overshadow my daughter's accomplishment. The cousin gatherings were always scheduled on Sundays, conveniently timed with my work commitments in Rosenheim. They'd take lots of pictures at the zoo and send them to me afterwards, offering half-hearted apologies for not having included me. When I asked why, Mama's explanation was always, "We thought you were too tired." Last spring, there was a plan for Daniel, my ex-boyfriend, to take Ben, my son, along with my father Marcus, and his son, Ben, to a soccer game. But that plan, unfortunately, fell through. As Daniel was at work at that moment, I asked if it would be all right if I brought Ben along, in order to ensure he didn't miss out. Dad said curtly, "We only have 4 tickets." Yet when I reviewed the photographs afterwards, I saw that they had actually taken our neighbor Paul's child, simply because he happened to be present at that time. My home hosted the whole match, Ben there on TV. His team cap protected his head from the glare, as he kept hoping, "Maybe they'll wave to the camera, I'll see them." A hopeful wish for an 8-year-old boy, pure in his love of the sport. Of course he said that. 3 months ago, Marcus asked for €5,000 to get ahead before the winter work. "No," I stated, this time friendly, but without offering any form of apology. "I need a cushion," I told him quietly. "I have to stop being the bank." He didn't call me for 2 weeks. When he finally did, everything had a new edge. Little jabs about my artistic job and how I didn't understand real life. He joked about both my parents. "She's rich, but all her money must be in cable." When Dad texted, "We're canceling Christmas presents for your kids." Budget issues. That's when it clicked. An almost audible sound in my head. I never faced any budget issues when I was asked to pay for the plumbing problems, the branch that needed pruning, or the necessary oil change. Our family used the mention of a budget deficit as a code phrase, meaning, "We're really angry that you won't come to our aid again." Even so, I went because we always give our presents there each year, because I believed my children could stomach one small item more and it would be acceptable, because I thought perhaps they had acquired a small item anyway, because I constantly grant them opportunities against all logic. As I watched Emma unwrap her second electronic device and my kids get candy canes, I realized that the chance I had given them had been used as a weapon. It wasn't about the tablets. It was the public annihilation. Those same empty socks lay there, under the roof where just last week my paycheck had covered the electricity bill. And now, the lights shone brightly on the presents belonging to others. That was my dad speaking. The little guy seemed to suggest that my children had no value because they were my own. We made it through lunch. Ham and potato grits that stuck in my throat. Marcus cracked a joke, suggesting that the reason Santa wasn't present was because he had been fired. Dad told a maudlin story about how we got oranges in our socks as kids and were happy. "Ah, the good old days," he declared, his tone heavy with sentiment, as though my LF kids had demanded a pony when all they truly wished for was to be accepted. Lena helped her mother clear the dirty dishes. Her reward was a barely audible, "Thanks, honey," without any eye contact. Ben piled the wrapping paper into a volcano and quietly asked if he could take it to the recycling bag. "No, throw it in the trash," Julia said curtly, and with a sharp gesture pointed to the trash bin. He blushed and did so. I kept my breath calm and controlled. I cut a cake that no one wanted. I helped Ben tie his little shoe when the lace broke. He said, "That's okay. I can tie the other one in a double knot." He tried to cheer me up. That hurt more than the empty sock. On the drive home, the sky above the highway was deep and gray, as oppressive as my mood. My windshield wipers squeaked rhythmically. Lena stared out the window with her headphones on and didn't press play. I saw her reflection in the glass. Empty. He had the candy cane in his lap, clutching it like it was a fragile thing, ready to shatter the slightest touch. At last, Lena broke the silence, speaking softly. "It's no big deal," she said, without even looking at me. "I know," I said. And my voice sounded far too controlled. Almost mechanical. I didn't intend to convey the message that meanness was of no consequence. However, I also wasn't looking to unload my heartache onto you, dumping it like fiery coals. "We'll open our gifts first thing tomorrow morning at home, and we're having pancakes for breakfast," I said, striving for a tone of lightheartedness and positivity. Our house had a slightly askew Christmas tree, decorated with ornaments crafted from paper and felt. Yet, despite its imperfections, it was a cherished family tradition, a symbol of our love. 3 gifts lay nestled underneath, wrapped in brown paper. Lena had thoughtfully adorned them with her colorful markers. Inside, there was a used keyboard, a bargain I'd scored from a student selling their belongings on an eBay group because they were relocating, a vibrant watercolor set, and a challenging Lego construction kit. I placed the pot of hot chocolate on the stove, my stirring becoming almost hypnotic, a necessary ritual to prevent the milk from sticking to the bottom. Ben then inquired if we could each have 2 marshmallows. 3, I said, and he grinned, his first real smile of the day. When she finally went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, the house silent around me. I opened my banking app on my phone. The blue light was the only thing in the room. I stared at my scheduled transfers. There it was. "Mom, groceries euro 300. Next transfer tomorrow. Including euro 121 for your insurance." The schedule said it would repeat weekly on Fridays. I had started the automation because I was tired of the begging, the made-up stories, and the constant guilt. I had told myself it would be easier, but it also made me feel complicit, in the way my canned children had been taught that they were worth less. I tapped Edit. It asked, "Change or delete?" I tapped Delete. A window popped up, warning read, "Are you sure you want to cancel this standing order?" My thumb hovered over the glass, my stomach churning, conditioned fear of conflict. Then I thought of Ben's face. I pressed Delete. A little green checkmark appeared. Her scheduled standing order had been deleted. I took a screenshot. I didn't send it to anyone. I placed the file inside a new folder that I had created on my phone earlier that day, naming it Borders, a folder that, up to that point in time, remained completely empty. I kept scrolling down until I reached the direct debits from the utility companies. Electricity, water, garbage, property tax, which I had stepped in for when they hadn't paid last year. The horses in my life, whom I had decided that helping meant removing all resistance from their lives. I didn't touch them. A clean cut, no drugs, no dramatic notes, no explanations. And so, I opened the other tab in my browser, the one I turn to when I need a reminder that a vast world exists beyond the immediate confines of my family. Chivalry, ski passes, cheap vacation rentals in Garmisch-Partenkirchen churches. Last-minute deals flashed at me. Last week, I'd worked a rather large company Christmas party, and that had resulted in a small amount of extra money for me. I hadn't promised anyone. No one knew of them. They made a cancellation for 2 days at a small holiday apartment located in Garmisch. It wasn't fancy. The ad showed worn plastic work and a photo of a sofa with a blanket over it that was obviously supposed to hide a stain or a hole. There were pine bunk beds. It cost euro 219 per night, plus cleaning. Total euro. The children's ski school had 2 last-minute cancellations. Euro 100 euros per child for a half-day deposit. Rental was euro 40 euros per child per day. Gas, snacks, cocoa. It was going to be a tight squeeze, but it was mathematically possible. I booked it. My heart was pounding. I didn't tell the kids yet. With their Christmas stockings ready to go, I placed them neatly on our TV stand. Inside, I placed 2 winter hats, lucky finds from a recent sale. And then I arranged their candy canes beside them. It was as if we'd planned the whole thing. I didn't sleep much that night. Whenever I shut my eyes, I couldn't help but see the tablets, Ben's empty sock, and my own thumb pushing the yes, delete button. But my hands felt quieter than it had in months. The morning consisted of pancakes, a mess of papers, and the first tentative tinny notes of the keyboard coming from the small built-in speaker. Ben played Jingle Bells rather poorly, but with enthusiasm. Lena played a few chords and then unpacked the watercolor set. Tap, tap, tap. She tapped the brush. The sound continued in the kitchen. They were fine. They were always fine because they were strong. I was the one with the shaking. As I finally told them all about the trip, Lena's eyes widened incredibly, as though she had somehow magically become 5 years old again. Seriously? Ben bounded around the room, shouting with sheer delight. Do we need to pack any snow pants, everyone? Immediately, he inquired. His pragmatism mirroring my own. We searched the hallway closet, our noses wrinkling at the musty smell of aged fabric, and unearthed the used jeans I'd purchased the previous year. I hoped against hope that they'd still fit. Amazingly, they managed to fit, Joe. Though just barely. After a quick lunch, we departed, thermos cups in hand containing the remnants of our hot chocolate and a bag of clementines as snacks for the journey. The highway to the mountains was dry, the sunlight sharp and brilliant, a complete contrast to the somber gray of yesterday. Ben, ever observant, began counting the passing trucks. Lena, meanwhile, captured the scenery through the car window, mesmerized by the way the sunlight bathed the snow-covered fields. I resisted the impulse to post anything online. Not yet. I wanted to keep this focused on the children, not on portraying a perfect image of my family for the world's consumption. Garmisch-Partenkirchen possessed a certain charm in its unpretentious simplicity. The apartment, however, was small and dated, smelling strongly of aged wood and creaking ominously with every step we took. The ladder supporting the bunk beds wobbled precariously, a clear indication of its need for repair. The skirting boards, in dire need of paint, were a stark reminder of the apartment's overall lack of upkeep. But nobody appeared to be concerned. We had our noodles straight from cups, while sitting on the floor, and enjoyed a movie playing on my laptop. With the three of us huddled under the blanket, it effectively concealed the damaged area of the sofa. It felt like an adventure. In the morning, we dressed warmly and slipped into our heavy sled boots. Ben looked like a marshmallow in his outfit. Lena gave the appearance of having entered a totally different life. A life she certainly never imagined would suit her in any way. One where she mattered. Ski school was half chaos, half magic. As I sat in the small hut, enjoying a coffee that clearly cost far too much, I found myself indulging in the luxury of not thinking about anything whatsoever, save for the steam that gently curled up from the mug. Whenever Ben came down the gently sloping baby hill, he always gave me a really enthusiastic wave. Lena played cool, acting as if she didn't notice me, and then discreetly waved quickly when she felt certain that no one else was observing. I made a video. For once, it was just for us, for my archive, not for the validation of others. While the kids slept soundly that night, worn out from the day's activities, I shared a few photos online. The kids grinning, their cheeks pink in their hats, their ski asses proudly held to their jackets like medals. A plate of the world's most expensive fries. The view from above, where the trees look like someone has sprinkled powdered sugar on them. I wrote a calm, matter-of-fact caption. First time in Garmisch. Proud of my little skiers. An hour later, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Emma, my niece, commented. Oh my God, how cool. Why didn't you invite us? I stared at the screen. I typed, deleted, typed again. Then I wrote just 2 words, budget problems. I included a snowflake emoji because I succumbed to weakness. But I must say, I did not enjoy it. My mother called, and I let it ring twice before I picked up. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was coming. How could you? She immediately asked. No hello? How could I take my kids skiing? I asked back calmly. How could you say that to Emma? She snapped. She's a kid. So are Lena and Ben. I said it firmly. I have finished funding a household in which my children are not a part of and do not fit in. Oh, stop it! You're being dramatic. You know we love them. I saw what I saw. The empty socks were obvious enough. She offered a defensive reply. Your father already explained it. Over the noise, she could hear her father murmuring in the background, words suggesting a difficult year ahead and the necessity for everyone to tighten their belts. Everyone? I asked sharply. Did the budget problems also apply to the tablets and the watches? Total silence from her side, after which Mama breathed out a long sigh. We see Marcus's kids more often. They're just different. Your schedule is my schedule. She paid your electricity bill last week, I interrupted. I kept my voice calm, even though my heart was racing. Mom, the weekly standing orders have ended. Kindly remove my card information from any and all accounts where it's still stored. I am no longer your backup. You did something, Father barked from somewhere behind the phone. Suddenly wide awake. Are you punishing your mother now? I am protecting my children, I said. We will not show up to be ignored anymore. Who put you up to this? Mom asked. Her voice became shrill. Is this Daniel, your therapist? No one put me up to anything. Right beneath the light I had installed myself, I watched as my children were turned away. I made a decision. So you are going to starve us? Mom's voice became thin and plaintive, the way it always gets when she is trying to emotionally blackmail me and make me feel like teeth again. You will not starve, I said wearily. You will do what adults do. Back off. Reach out to the parent who received the tablets for assistance. They seem to be in a fluid state. You are trying to start a fight, Father shouted. That's sneaky. I pressed a button, I said. Using financial difficulties as an excuse and then staging a gift show for my children seemed terribly deceitful. He's your brother, Mom said tearfully. The two of you must reconcile. He can contact me when he's prepared to apologize, I declared, leaving no room for further argument. For now, the standing order is canceled. That's all. After I hung up, my phone started blowing up with messages. Marcus, nice garmish flex. Great way to use the kids. Julia, if you had a problem, you could have talked to us. You don't have to be so petty. Dad, come over. We'll sort it out. Bring the bank details. Mom, you broke my heart. I didn't answer any of them. I put the phone down, took the kids into the tiny, steaming hot tub in the holiday apartment, and watched as Ben learned the art of first running like a tomato and then jumping into the cold snow, cheering. Lena floated beneath the surface, looking up at the dark sky as if she could hear another planet. On the edge, two old women were talking about a neighbor's dog. It was the most normal thing I had felt in months. When we got home, the reaction really started. There were 3 voice messages from Dad, all of which began in a warm voice and ended abruptly. Mom left one in which she was crying. Marcus sent me a screenshot of a PayPal request for €50 that he had sent to our cousin Katharina, with the remark, lunch, and a rather sarcastic note added. See, I'm happy to ask other people. I didn't respond. At my door stood Julia, bearing a casserole and a carefully rehearsed speech. Can't we make this less strange for the children? Emma was in tears. I let her talk, leaning in the doorframe. She inhaled, then I stated, I'm doing nothing unusual. I will not support a system that disregards my children. If they receive the same treatment as grandchildren, I'm quite happy to cooperate. However, until that happens, I'll continue to pay for my home. Her face showed offense as she stated, You believe we are bad people. I replied, I think your decision was flawed. I made a different decision. Her hesitant voice then inquired if she might at least leave the casserole here. I accepted the heavy, warm dish. Thank you, I said, because it was thoughtful and because, fundamentally, we are not enemies. We're just not allies anymore. The messages kept coming for a few more days and then started to get less frequent. In order to avoid becoming emotionally involved each time, I saved a simple response in my notes application. It included this message: I am not your financial safety net. I will not be supporting a family that does not include my children. I simply copied and pasted it whenever necessary. If any further explanation was requested, my answer always remained the same. The standing order has been cancelled. One bright spot in the gray was my cousin Katharina, who was always the quiet one at meetings. In the gray and bleakness, my cousin Katharina shone as a bright light. She was always the most calm and collected one at our family gatherings. She wrote to me privately, saying, "I saw your post. I've noticed many small things over the years. Remember when they took Emma to Monster Jam rather than Ben?" You're making the right decision. We're available if you need a different family for a movie night. Want a shift? Pays well? I accepted too. Saying yes to this felt right. It promised financial gain without the nagging feeling of having to sacrifice something deeply important to me. January was quieter, as if someone had muffled the room's acoustics. The family group chat went mostly silent. When Father sent the text message, "Could you come by on Sunday?" I replied, "We're pretty busy." Then, I failed to clarify that being busy included tasks like preparing soup, completing homework assignments, and continuing work on the puzzle we had already begun. I checked my banking app and scrolled down to my standing orders. The whole situation offered a satisfying lesson, specifically because Mom always set aside €300 for weekly groceries. No scheduled transfers, the little gray notification said. I took another screenshot and filed it in my border folder. I looked at the utility bills and pulled my hand back as if they were hot. One decision at a time. By the time February came around, Katharina invited us to her home for a belated Christmas celebration with her husband and her 2 children. We brought cookies. There was still a small tree standing there, decorated with paper stars. My kids got a few gifts, a puzzle and a book, to be exact, and thankfully, there were no speeches. The children sat huddled on the floor, working together to assemble the puzzle. No one said small. No one said budget problems. Just as Ben's shoelace snapped for the second time, Katharina wordlessly handed him a replacement from a drawer, because she's a mother and she keeps everything organized. By spring, Mom tried again. "We miss you," she texted. "We'll make it up to you next year." I said, "We'll see." And I meant it. I received a group message from my father a month later. The message included a link to a donation campaign designed to help fund a new roof. I scrolled past it. Instead, I sent him the website of a handyman who offered payment by installment. During the month of December, as the air became crisp and cold once more, the children asked whether we would go back to our mountains. I said yes, if we could manage it. I took extra shifts. I put an effects processor I no longer used up for sale. We didn't invite anyone over. We didn't post anything from the summit this time. On our social media, we shared a photo of the delicious hot chocolate in our mugs, showing the marshmallows melting gently like fluffy little clouds. Emma liked the picture. She didn't comment. Occasionally, things move through us, leaving behind only a semblance of their form. On Christmas Day, we stayed home. The table was set with the eclectic collection of cups and the felt runner that Lena had created in her art class. In the far corner of the room, 2 folding chairs stood unused. Still unstowed, because I wasn't ready to push them into the closet just yet. I contemplated inviting my parents again, and concluded that they might come if they struck the right balance. A good tone and respectful behavior were essential. I didn't. Definitely not this year. Not during my first year of relaxation. Our breakfast included pancakes and eggs. As we craved a more savory option, we made a video call to Daniel and his parents, using a video application. Making silly faces, they congratulated the children on their impressive progress as they successfully traversed the small hills. Lena took a small metronome from the drawer. I'd found it just for her keyboard. Ben opened a used experiment kit. He proceeded to construct a volcano on a baking sheet without bothering to ask anyone for permission. Later, the doorbell rang. It was Katharina and her children in hats, their cheeks pink from the cold. After having spent the afternoon sledding in the city park, they stopped by, bringing along a delicious extra cake. "Apple," Katharina said with a laugh. "My oven was acting up, but I'm sure it'll taste good." The children came tumbling in, snow on their boots, excited to see each other. Lena showed them her watercolors. Ben showed them the keyboard and played the 3 chords he knows, as if it were a concert at the Philharmonic. Everyone clapped. It wasn't a show, it was a home. I checked my phone one last time that evening. A text from Mom, sent at 8 a.m., Merry Christmas. I replied, Merry Christmas. That was all. No accusations. No talk about the budget. I went back to the table. I cut the cake. Even though the chairs remained unoccupied, the room was completely full. We didn't talk about who wasn't there. We had a discussion about our sledding outing, focusing on finding the perfect mix ratio for the best hot chocolate. And we couldn't help but mention the amusing dog we saw in the park trying to chase a sled down a hill, only to end up tangled in a bush. On that night, when the house was peaceful and quiet, and I was making my final rounds, picking up discarded cups and socks, I opened the boundaries folder on my mobile phone. 2 screenshots. Yeah, delete. No scheduled transfers. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt as if I had been in a room, believing I would inevitably remain in darkness forever. And then, finally, I'd located and activated the light switch.